when a pair of people posing as panhandlers robbed and killed 54-year-old Jacqueline Smith. Keith Smith lost his wife, his soulmate, and his compassion for those who would beg for money at a street corner.
Something needs to be done because now you don't know whether or not you're going to give. Is this person going to take your life or they're going to say thank you for it? Because this girl actually said, God bless you.
In early December of 2018, the city of Baltimore were distraught by the killing of a 54-year-old wife and mom whose demise was a result of giving back to the community. Although her case appeared to be open and shut, it was ultimately proven to be a hoax orchestrated by the ones who claimed to love her. I'm going to take a deep dive into the case of Jacqueline Smith, and I will discuss what was initially reported to authorities about her death. And then I'll discuss what truly led up to her passing. As well, I will discuss the events leading up to the arrests and convictions of those involved. Jacqueline Smith, an electrical engineer at the U.S. Army's Aberdeen Proving Ground, was traveling home from a birthday party in Baltimore on December 1st, 2018, with her husband Keith Smith and her stepdaughter Valeria Smith. According to Keith, his wife wanted to stop and give a panhandling couple with a baby $10 at the intersection of East Chase and Valley Streets, and after she gave them the money, he claimed the panhandlers took his wife's necklace, stole her wallet, and stabbed her. Baltimore police responded to Johns Hopkins Hospital after reports of a stabbing. When they got there, authorities learned that Jacqueline had been brought to the medical facility by her husband with multiple stab wounds, and that she was later pronounced dead. An autopsy revealed that Jacqueline had been stabbed 5 times in the chest and sustained a cut to her lower right arm. Her death was ruled a homicide. Keith's version of his wife's killing drew national attention as he and his daughter, Valeria, gave tearful interviews.
3 blocks away, it was a girl out with a baby in her arms. It was like drizzling, it was cold, and my wife just felt moved to give her something. So at the stop sign, she waved her over to come on over to the car, and then out of nowhere, some guy came over while walking with her. And I hit my window, and Jacqueline went to hand the money out, and the guy just leaned over and said, "Can I thank your wife?" And I said, "You can thank my wife." And within that split second, this guy commenced to stabbing my wife. He snatched her necklace off her neck, and the girl snatched the pocketbook, and they all both ran into some basketball court. Before I knew it, I jumped out my car to run after him, but then I came back because my wife needed me more.
Like, she's the nicest woman that you could ever meet in your life. She was just a beautiful person, and she didn't deserve for this to happen to her. You know, it's been all over the news. It's f***ed up because, like... I'm trying to be strong for my father, but I can't. I've never had anything like this happen to me before. I've never seen anyone die right in my face before. I just want them to find, if anybody knows anybody, if anybody has any information, please help us and find out who did this to my stepmother, please. Please, and just protect your family. Like, if you love your family, just let them know, because life is too short.
Keith had been able to manipulate the hearts and minds of America. And with his tale of killer panhandlers, Keith exploited Baltimore's reputation for street violence. And in one of his interviews, he urged officials to outlaw panhandling in the streets of Baltimore so no one else fell victim.
You know, absorbing in all of it and trying to see how I can move past this. But I'm not going to move past this until I talk to whoever my congressman is about banning panhandling.
You want the city to make a change here.
I want the city.
You're already beginning to see that.
I'm already seeing it. Because now from this tragedy with my wife, I don't even look at panhandlers the same way. I look at them as a threat to my life now. So that's what I'm going to push for, and I'm going to make it in my wife's name, Jacqueline Smith. She didn't die in vain. She didn't die in vain. I'm going to make sure she didn't. You know, so I just thank all the support I've been getting, all the support they've been giving me, because I never would have made this through by myself.
The murder of his wife, 3 weeks before Christmas of 2018, no less, provoked outrage and villainized the homeless. After hearing about Jacqueline's murder, Oprah Winfrey, once a newscaster in Baltimore, decided to tweet that the case would make her reconsider handing out cash to panhandlers. In her tweet, she said, "This story struck my heart. I've done this 1,000 times, but will think twice before ever doing again. To JS family, I hope her death gets people woke to change." But the story didn't hold up when authorities couldn't locate evidence of the panhandlers, and surveillance video and cell phone data didn't show Keith's car along the route he claimed to take. In March 2019, Keith and his daughter were arrested 3 months later near the U.S.-Mexico border, roughly 1,700 miles from Maryland. Keith was charged for first-degree murder and a weapons charge. Valeria was charged for acting as an accessory after her stepmom's murder. At that point after their arrests, investigators had obtained cell phone records and wiretap warrants that showed Keith had placed 2 phone calls for flight reservations and tried to book one-way tickets to Cuba and Canada. As well, he was unable to implement his initial escape plan because he did not have a U.S. passport to travel out of the country. Keith had asked about the possibility of flying to the U.S. Virgin Islands too. Investigators also noticed that Keith had used an online search engine to inquire about whether he needed a passport to get to Jamaica, or if there was a way to get to Mexico without going through one of the border crossings. In the wake of Keith's arrest, Jacqueline's mom, Anna, said that the panhandler story didn't add up from the beginning because Jacqueline was a cautious woman who would not have given money to a person in the street in the way her husband had claimed.
It was all phony. I knew it wasn't real. I suspected that he had something to do with it.
During the trial, detectives testified that they became suspicious after hearing inconsistencies in his story. First, he told them the attack happened too fast, that he was in shock and didn't see the knife. In a later interview, he described the weapon as a kitchen knife. He also told police the woman panhandler wore a brown coat, but then later said it was a blue coat. Authorities also wondered, why would a couple panhandle for money on an empty corner in the middle of the night? According to police detective Michael Morin, panhandlers typically panhandle in well-traveled and heavily populated areas during times of the day that would be most lucrative. Police could find no evidence of the attack at the street corner. No blood on the ground, no discarded knife, not even the cardboard sign the panhandlers supposedly carried to ask for money to feed their baby. Crime scene technicians as well found no fingerprints of a suspect on the car. They found blood spattered inside the window where Jacqueline sat. But Keith claimed she rolled down her window to hand the money. Detectives also searched homeless shelters but found no one matching the description of two panhandlers with a baby. Authorities tried to corroborate his story by checking as many as 30 surveillance cameras around the area of the supposed attack, but found no sight of Keith's car or the panhandlers. It was testified by FBI agent Matthew Wilde that he ran a report on the cell phones of Keith, Valeria, and Jacqueline Smith. Keith's phone made or received no calls or texts around the time of the murder. That could be explained if the phone was turned off or out of service. Valeria's phone, however, pinged off a cell phone tower to place them in Druid Hill Park. When detectives asked Keith about this, he said he became lost while driving home. He made no mention of a detour in the park before. After this interview, he moved from Baltimore to Winter Haven, Florida. Growing more suspicious, authorities obtained a court order to wiretap his phone. They noticed he was communicating with his daughter through a cell phone video app they couldn't tap in. They intercepted a package Keith sent her, and in it held a new cell phone. Valeria took the stand, testifying that her dad drove them into Druid Hill Park as his wife slept, then stabbed and killed her stepmom, not the panhandlers in Baltimore as he had claimed. Valeria said she was sitting in the back seat of the car when it all happened. She told the jury, "He stabbed her. I saw blood on his hands. He went into the woods with the knife in his hands. When he came back out, he didn't have the knife." She testified that her dad returned from the woods with a story that they would tell police that a panhandler stabbed Jacqueline. Valeria had told the jury the story was supposed to be it was a homeless person or two homeless people that had a baby, and Mrs. Jacqueline was supposed to feel sorry for them. When she gave them the money, they stabbed her. Valeria testified that her dad put a towel on Jacqueline's head and drove to East Baltimore to call 911. She said he was calm before the 911 call and that he pretended to cry after the call. After the killing, Valeria testified that her dad asked her to get rid of Jacqueline's wallet, told her to put it in a storm drain, and she did. Valeria said he then moved to Florida and she and her dad communicated over an encrypted messaging app and by phone. In March 2019, she said Keith called her and said they were moving to Mexico. Before he drove to West Baltimore to pick her up, Valeria said she bought a journal at a dollar store and she wrote some things in it, such as, "I am officially on the run," "This is so crazy," and "I am so carsick." There was no mention in those journal entries of Jacqueline. Valeria also testified that the motive was apparently insurance money. Apparently, a day or two after the murder, she said her dad went to Jacqueline's workplace to get paperwork for her life insurance policy and that he was the beneficiary. Besides Valeria, a detective who also testified believed the motive to be true, and he told the court he was so convinced that he killed his wife that he called the insurance company and told them to hold off on paying out the policy. Keith declined to testify and his attorney did not present a defense case. His attorney, told the jury that police never found the murder weapon and that Valeria can't be trusted. In December 2022, a jury found Keith Smith guilty of first-degree murder and a weapons charge in connection with the 2018 stabbing death of his wife. He was sentenced for life imprisonment, plus 3 years to be served concurrently for the use of a deadly weapon. As well, Valeria was sentenced to 5 years in prison, as well as 3 years of probation. His attorney had asked the judge for a sentence less than the maximum, focusing on his faith and involvement in his church before his arrest. However, the judge was not moved and reprimanded Keith, calling the killing premeditated and willful, saying the victim had no way of knowing her husband would stab her over and over again. The victim was the definition of defenseless and vulnerable. She was asleep. He blamed vulnerable people, panhandlers. Jacqueline Smith's family issued a statement saying that they were pleased with the sentence. This didn't bring her back, but we are elated, and we feel that definitely justice was served. Jacqueline's loved ones remembered her as being loving, giving, intelligent, and witty. As well, she loved her mom, her 2 sons, who are both members of the U.S. Coast Guard, and she also wanted her marriage to work with Keith, but sadly, it didn't. That is all for now on this case. Let me know your thoughts on it. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video if you want. Your support is greatly appreciated. And I will see you next time on Melanin Mysteries.